Barnaby Joyce, thank you for your time. You're one of the most prominent right-wing
My
politicians in the country. Are you prepared to show leadership and call out and condemn the violent nationalists, racists, anti-vaxxers and far-right extremists who've been part of the protests in Melbourne this week?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially in their actions around the Shrine of Remembrance. It's not about being left or right, it's about doing the proper thing. I mean, this is sacred ground, as noted by Sir John Monash, and to have people sort of lounging around there, no matter what they think their issue is, swearing, littering, drinking, this is to represent tens of thousands of Australians. Well, I've been vaccinated twice, and if you're not doing it for yourself, if you've got a view to it, then do it for the person sitting next to you. Like, there is some logic behind this. This pandemic will break out in a smaller form once we open the doors, and the doors have to be opened again. And we have to be able to have a small group as possible who need the intensive care unit beds that will obviously be filled by people who have not been vaccinated. Now, that's just a factor of epidemiology. That is going to happen. And people protesting to make it worse is not a logical thing. Now, I understand their frustrations. We've all got those frustrations. We want this over. The best way to get back to a normal life as quickly as possible is get vaccinated as quickly as possible.
ASIO says that 40% now of its domestic terrorism investigations involve nationalist and racist extremists. How important do you think firm leadership is in denouncing those ideologies to prevent the rise of them in Australia?
Well, I come from a family where they served to fight against fascism. I was brought up very much educated about the evils of the far right.
And are you concerned about the rise of it in Australia? Do you think it is a problem here in Australia?
I believe temperance is an incredibly important thing in everything we do. That the human condition is crushed by the evils on the far right and crushed by the evils on the far left, and they're both extremism. It's a horseshoe where the crazy left and the crazy right in a bent horseshoe are really not that far away from one another. What
do you think of your coalition colleagues such as George Christensen cheering on the freedom protesters in Melbourne?
Well, I don't believe he was cheering them on, but obviously any sense of support for people who are breaking the law, who are assaulting police officers, who are desecrating war memorials is something that's abhorrent to me, and that is my view, and I'm George knows my view. What your next question is, I can predict it, is, well, why don't you stop him? Well, I can talk to him, and that's the logical thing to do. But if you said, go up to Dawson and tackle him in the street and tie him up, well, it's just illogical. People in this nation, one of the things we love about this nation is you have the freedom to say what you like, even if what you say is wrong. I mean, that's one of the things we protect in this nation. And it's up to the discernment of the Fourth Estate, yourself, of other people to say, I don't disagree with it, and most importantly, the logic of every person watching your show to say, that is your view, but it's a view I don't agree with.
On another subject, climate change, the Glasgow meeting's drawing closer. If the Prime Minister proposes that Australia go to Glasgow with a commitment for net zero by 2050, will the National Party sign up to that?
Well, when you say sign up to what? We'll look at that issue in a collegiate way with my party. Now,
I just mean sign up exactly to that, net zero by 2050.
We acknowledge the caution that we have to have. We have to have a form of caution that understands that right now in England, this year, a six-fold increase in gas prices. Since the start of the year, 250%. I think last night, 800,000 households have to find a new energy provider. This is what happens if you get the mix wrong. It's putting pressure on their capacity during winter to keep themselves warm. And now, I realise that this is because they're coming out of COVID, but also it's the incapacity of renewables to fill the void.
Your predecessor, Michael McCormack, said this week that if Australia doesn't sign up to net zero, it could threaten Australia's trade relationships and export income.
Well, these things are all things that have to be taken into account. And we must make sure that we understand the circumstances overseas. We understand the circumstances of what's happening in our nation here.
Can I ask, where are negotiations up to between the National Party and the Minister for Emissions Reduction, Angus Taylor?
You can ask, but I can't answer because otherwise otherwise you're having a sort of general discussion.
Do you think you're near the end, or you've got a long way to go? Or
we're not. I don't deliberate on the 7:30 report as much as I respect you as a reporter. That's not the way we're going to do business, and I have to respect the party room I'm a part of and have the great honour of leading, and give them the capacity to also have their views, and their views are as far and wide-ranging as yours and mine.
Before we run out of time, New South Wales and Victoria will be coming out of COVID restrictions shortly. As a regional politician, can I ask, are regional hospitals sufficiently resourced to deal with the inevitable increase of admissions they'll be seeing?
Well, there are concerns. I was speaking to people at Urbanville just this afternoon, and in Urbanville they're saying, well, the issue we have is we're serviced from Queensland, and at the top of my electorate is further north, or about the same latitude north as Warwick, and they're saying, well, this creates confusions, and there are unnecessary confusions, and there are things that we have to manage. But at this point in time, we're doing a good job. About 3/4 of Australia have been vaccinated at least once. About half of Australia has been vaccinated twice. In our Aboriginal Australia, they call them Aboriginals in my part of the world. We've got a lot more work to do in that community, and we've got to bring that issue forward. But we've been very lucky and blessed with very few fatalities from COVID in the Aboriginal community. But we're very mindful of this and the work the flying doctors are doing, and we've got millions of vaccines turning up now. I believe around about the end of October you can have vastly more vaccines and you have people wanting to get vaccinated. And let's hope we cap out over 80%, but that's up to your listeners and your viewers.
Barnaby Joyce, thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.